Make lifestyle choices to enhance your well-being. This is Natural Inspirations. You are listening to Natural Inspirations Podcast, the show where we have conversations with local natural health experts on the Space and Treasure Coast. Welcome to episode 35. I'm Chris Urquhart. Today, we're talking to Dr. Marcela Bowie about easing stress with acupuncture and Oriental medicine. Hi, Dr. Bowie. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Today, we're talking about the impact of emotional stress and what the results it can have on the body. And so can you share with me how you view that through the lens of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and how you might determine what the root cause of this type of issue would be?
Sure. So just a brief introduction about Chinese medicine and acupuncture and how we get to the diagnoses is that we would spend some time talking with the patient, going over their current symptoms, going over their lifestyle, diet, as well as their history, how they got to this point. And we also look at the tongue. We look at the top side of the tongue as well as the underside of the tongue. That gives us an idea about the qi, the blood, and just generally what their organ system is doing. And as well, the radial pulse. We feel the radial pulse right here on both sides. There are some different points there that give us some qualities, different pulse qualities, which ultimately it's like taking a snapshot of what's going on internally, both physically as well as on an emotional, psycho-emotional level.
So right now, we're seeing a lot of people who have lost their jobs and are dealing with these types of emotional repercussions and traumas on a larger scale. So when you see someone like that, how would you help them through acupuncture and Chinese medicine?
So let me give you an example of two very different types of patients who have recently come to my office, presenting with or showing to me very similar presentations. So both came saying that they just feel emotionally unstable. They feel as though they have no control over their lives. They might have some physical symptoms. In particular, one had some symptoms, digestive issues, and the other was presenting more as trouble with sleeping, trouble being able to rest. And so right there as well, it gives us a little bit of an idea on the root cause and where to steer the conversation. So with Chinese medicine, every single organ can affect the body in terms of how we do emotionally as well as physically and how we deal with stress. And so the two organs that are most important, or that I see most commonly, and in particular with these two patients, are the heart as well as the liver. So in Chinese medicine, the liver has to do with the free flow of qi, or anything that is moving, as well as the ability to contain. So it is really important for us when we are dealing with the external world to be able to sometimes hold on to an emotion when that's appropriate, but we also need to be appropriately able to release that emotion. And so for this one patient, they came in and presented with pain at the hypochondriac region, so just under the ribs. It was like this stuffiness, and also intermittent diarrhea with constipation. That's often a sign that the liver is overreacting on the intestinal system. And then as well, having palpitations, heart palpitations at rest. And that's also another sign that the liver isn't moving as freely as it can. So we would call that liver qi stagnation. And there are also signs on the pulse. The pulse quality in the liver position will appear a little bit more tight. And so we also look at the tongue. And so having really a multitude of symptoms, and then also looking at some of the signs that we know within the framework of Chinese medicine can steer us into that direction. So with that particular patient, I chose acupuncture points, which can help move liver qi and can help soften everything to make sure that things are flowing correctly, as well as I prescribed some Chinese herbs as well that they take home. Sometimes as well, some breathing exercises can be very helpful. And that's something that I can, send the patient home. That's something we customize as well for each patient. Then comes the heart. So the heart in Chinese medicine feels all emotions, and it is also the organ system that oftentimes will respond to something that more of like a shock or a trauma, something that is overwhelming to that person. And so I had another patient who he had worked really hard for many, many years to build a business, and suddenly with COVID was not able to do this anymore. And so it was a big shock for him. That was a big shock and trauma. And once I felt the radial pulse, there was a quality within the heart position that clearly showed signs of shock by means of the body creating almost like this bubble around the heart to protect it. And so with that, I used a lineage formula that I have within the framework of the Shenhammer pulse system that I study, which is, we call it move chi in the chest. And that actually was wonderful and really helped relieve a lot of the symptoms that he was having, including trouble sleeping, and just some of the emotional distress.
I find that all fascinating. So just to take it one little step further, in case someone isn't familiar with the basis of how acupuncture and things work, Chinese medicine is based on meridians in the body, isn't that right? And it's thousands of years old. And when you use acupuncture, I hear the term relieve a blockage, when you talk about the flow of qi, but is that the points that you choose, are they based on the meridian systems related to where you're seeing an issue? Is that kind of how you?
Absolutely, yes. So we have to come to a differential diagnosis for each patient. So just like I described, two people who come in with the presentation of anxiety will have absolutely like two very different treatment principles and two very different approaches. And so the acupuncture, the meridian system in the body, oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, it is, each meridian is associated with a different organ system. There are different points along these meridians that also have different functions. Some would be used more to help move a blockage. Some would be used to help to supplement what is replete. Some would be used to help eliminate what is in excess. So by means of doing the intake, by talking with the patient, by looking at the tongue, taking a pulse intake, we come to a differential diagnosis, and with that we then select points that we would use for the treatment.
So, and then the idea is to bring the body back into a state of balance so it actually can heal itself, correct? I mean, it's
Absolutely,
kind of the
yes.
goal.
Yes,
Right.
the body has a wonderful ability to heal, and given the right environment, the right circumstances, and sometimes as well, it's about awareness. My pulse teacher, Dr. Hammer, would often say that acupuncture instills awareness, and I find that to be very true. That by not only by the means of education and talking about what's going on in their body, by me saying, well, this is your liver, and I sometimes will ask my patients to actually visualize what I'm trying to do within the treatment, either via the herbs or the acupuncture, and by having that patient be engaged and be a powerful player in their treatment, it absolutely can help speed healing up. But it also helps that patient to take their power back, and that's something that's really, really important to healing any kind of illness, any kind of disease.
Absolutely. Do you find there's occasions where you might refer to a complementary therapy to support what's going on with that patient?
Absolutely. And especially when it's something to do with stress or trauma, especially something that is really deep-seated. Oftentimes I would refer to a licensed mental health therapist, a counselor, a psychologist, and we have some really wonderful therapists here in this area to help support, because it can be really overwhelming if it's something that maybe is a trauma from childhood, when we physically are able to help open and move these blockages, things are going to come up. And it's important for that person, that patient, to have a good support system. So whether that is in the home, I often talk about that. Do you have a support system at home? Do you have someone that can support you through this healing journey? That can also be helpful. But if they do not, or just don't feel comfortable sharing some of these, very intimate things that are going to be coming up, I recommend that they reach out to a mental health counselor or therapist, and to help them through that journey as well.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. I really appreciate it. I think that It was really fascinating, and could serve a lot of people. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
And everyone listening, be well, stay connected.